Welcome to Coffee Commerce. My name is Sean Remmett, and I'm the grandson of a coffee farmer from Guyana, South America. On Coffee Commerce, we talk about the stories behind coffee as they relate to ideas, society, and business. And we've been talking about the involvement of coffee in revolutions, and in particular, the French and the American revolutions. Let's continue with France. And let's start with Robespierre, a prominent lawyer and politician who was perhaps one of the most influential figures associated with the French Revolution. He hated King Louis XVI's oppressive policies. This led him to say, "The king must die so that the country can live." And he would go on to say, "To punish the oppressors of humanity is clemency. To forgive them is cruelty." Robespierre would lead the nobility in rebelling against the king's steep financial taxation on the poor. Louis had spent large sums of money on the American Revolution, of all things. He borrowed from other nations and pushed France to the edge of bankruptcy. In the midst of this, there was a poor artillery officer who was seeking a commission. The young man enjoyed playing chess at the Parisian coffee houses in Paris. Chess was a popular pastime for the coffee house patrons. At Proquep's, it was said that the owner, Francois Proquep, had once required him to leave his hat as security while the young man sought money to pay his bill. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon would have no doubt been influenced by the new and emerging principles of coffee house speakers. His influence in politics and rapid military promotion gained steam as he became the front-runner of the collective resistance against the French monarchy. At first, Napoleon consumed about 2 cups of coffee, pure, quote, one in the morning after breakfast, and the other directly after dinner. His love for coffee increased over time. While some people may have argued about whether coffee was beneficial or not, one person claimed its beneficial effects could be powerfully illustrated by Napoleon. It was said about Napoleon and coffee, his buoyancy of mind and energies, intellectual and physical, were never surpassed by those of any man. He abstained from the use of wine and spiritual liquors, but drank coffee at all hours of the day to revive his spirits and invigorate his body. Some have argued that Napoleon's success and accomplishments were sparked from drinking the hot beverage. Napoleon's passion for coffee continued even after he was ordered in exile. On his voyage to Elba, after dinner, Napoleon usually played a game of chess, and then coffee was brought to him before he took his nightly stroll on the ship's deck. Napoleon also drank coffee on the prison island of St. Helena. The coffee plant had first arrived on the rat-infested island in 1733 from Yemen. The coffee plant had been neglected, even forgotten, but regardless had flourished on the island. And no one really thought about St. Helena's coffee until Napoleon. He had popularized it back in Paris by declaring, "The only good thing to come out of St. Helena is the coffee." In fact, Napoleon had preferred St. Helena's coffee to other kinds. That's not to say that he would not try other coffees. When Napoleon was exiled and residing at Longhouse, Sir Hudson Lowe, who was governor of the island and Napoleon's jailer, sent a case of coffee to Napoleon as a gift. Some had thought Napoleon would not accept it and was quite taken back when Napoleon ordered the coffee to be sent to the pantry, stating, "Good coffee is a precious thing in this horrible place." Napoleon's love for coffee can be summed up in what he had once said, "Strong coffee and plenty awakens me. It gives me a warmth, an unusual force, a pain that is not without pleasure. I would rather suffer than be senseless." Napoleon even craved coffee in his final days. Napoleon's physician in his late years at first allowed him a few sips of coffee, but eventually told everyone that he was forbidden from drinking the beverage. General Henry Bertrand noted that the emperor asked 20 times for a spoonful of coffee, but the valet was ordered by the doctor to refuse him any because it might irritate his stomach. Napoleon died at 5:49 p.m. on the evening of May 5th, 1821, in his bed. An autopsy concluded that he had died from stomach cancer, and supposedly reported coffee grounds were found in his stomach. Some have said that Napoleon was murdered by arsenic. After his death, Madame Tussaud thought Napoleon's coffee obsession was important enough to showcase. She displays the coffee cup the emperor had supposedly used for several years while living at St. Helena. Coffee and coffee houses were a big part of Napoleon's life. It was those coffee houses in the early days that helped him form key principles to reform that France so desperately needed. Sadly, his personal ambitions drove him to betray many of these principles in his eventual drive to become the first emperor of France in 1804. Regardless of the outcome, coffee houses have played a big role in new thoughts, revolutions, and even war. This may have even helped with the popularity in places such as France, but it would also be somewhat feared by some. But that's another story for another cup of coffee. Thank you.